This is why you should be careful doing private events as a stripper. I worked as a dancer for a few years. Most nights I worked at the club, but sometimes I did private events to make some extra money. I always took one of the bouncers that I knew from the club as my bodyguard and gave him a cut of what I made. I also only agreed to small events with a max of 10 to 15 people. One day a guy called me and booked me for a small birthday party for his brother. I explained the rules. No touching or grabbing, nothing sexual would be happening, and I only do what I'm comfortable with, to which he said he understood. I picked up my bouncer friend Tank and headed out to the event. When we arrived, we immediately noticed it was a huge party of at least 60 to 70 people, all of them being men. Tank asked me if I was still comfortable dancing for the party, and I agreed since we were already there. The group of men were really loud when I walked in, and they were extremely intoxicated, which was the first red flag. A few guys instantly started touching me, and Tank lightly pushed them away, telling them no touching and that the show hasn't started yet. While we were walking to the bathroom to change, another guy grabbed my butt. Tank pushed him off and started arguing with him. At this point, we should have left, and if I knew what was about to go down, we would have.
Story time, Tinder edition. Okay, the story blew up on Twitter like a while ago, but I'm just gonna retell it because it's very informational. So there was this guy and this girl, and they met through Tinder, and then they met up and they went on this date. And they were out at dinner, and then she starts not feeling so well, and then she says, I really need to go home, and he says, yeah, I'll drive you home. And she says, okay, so then they get to her house, and then she starts feeling better. So then she says, do you want to come in for some coffee? And then he says, yeah, sure. So they go inside, they have their coffee, and then she doesn't feel well again. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't feel well again, I think you really need to leave. And he's like, okay, and he leaves. And then she goes to bed, and in the middle of the night, she wakes up, and she hears this noise down in her kitchen. And so she locks her door, and she calls the cop. And the 911 operator is just on the other line saying, can you just stay on the line until the cops get there? And then the cops get there, and they're like, the door is locked, like, we don't think anyone's inside. And she's like, I promise you, someone's inside my house, I can hear them. She says, you have my permission to break down the door. So she's still up in her room, and then she hears the cops break down the door, and then she hears some wrestling and some fighting.
For those of you who bite your nails, you're not alone. This client came to me with extremely brittle and eaten up nails. She bites them due to anxiety, but she said it got really bad about a month ago during New York City Fashion Week. Little story time that she allowed me to share. She's a recent college graduate trying to break into the world of PR. A few months ago, before graduating, she secured an unpaid internship with a very well-known influencer. She did everything for her, including being available 24/7. Everything was going smooth until Fashion Week. She got overwhelmed going from show to show, carrying many bags along with heavy garments. As they were leaving the last show, the influencer asked her to reorganize and throw out a damaged SIM card she didn't need. Without realizing, my client threw out the one with all the Fashion Week footage on it that was going to be used for content. She rifled through many New York City garbage cans, but it was gone. She got fired on the spot, and since that moment, she's been biting her nails, scared that she'd never find a job again, especially in New York City.
Story time about how my stepdad caught me sending nudes to my stepbrother. Disclaimer, is not my story time, it's on Instagram. Now, my mom is dating my crush's dad. They made us spend the weekends together. Remember, at this point, I'm trying not to show that I'm actually in love with this guy. But now our parents are forcing us to hang out. Everything moved really fast with them. They got engaged 2 months later, and then married 3 months later. So now my crush was my stepbrother. Oh yeah, and my best friend hated me for it. My mom and I ended up moving into their house, so now I saw him every single day. Can you imagine having to live with your crush? Like him seeing everything about your life? I was constantly embarrassed. And my best friend started making up rumors about me. He started claiming that I was the one with the ED. But after we moved in together, things changed. Started being very sweet to me. Stopped fighting it, and we kissed. Everything was leading up to us doing the dirty. We were both sending each other nudes, and on one occasion, my stepdad caught me. I decided to tell him the truth. My stepbrother and I begged our parents to let us be together. Eventually, they agreed. We're both 18 now, and we're engaged. We're getting married next summer. True love is true love.
Chelsea is back. She spilled more tea, of course, so stay till the end to hear all the gossip. As for the nails, if you remember from her last appointment, we did a gel-X set on her, and I decided to not soak them off and do a fill with the same set. It's completely fine to do this. I personally prefer to not soak off. I filed and blended the remainder of the tip into her natural nail, and then just did my basic cuticle prep as usual. I strengthened the remainder of the extension with a hard gel, and then went in with a color and design. So for the tea, Chelsea's hubby's ex-wife saw on Facebook through a mutual friend's profile that Chelsea's pregnant. Mind you, his ex always wanted kids, and he always came up with some kind of excuse. She frantically starts calling him and shows up at his house like for part 2.
Hi girlies, I'm back with another story time. So this one's about the time that my boyfriend got his ex pregnant. So I was a senior in high school or whatever, and I was dating this guy who was 23 at the time, I believe. Anyway, he was always off and on with his long-term girlfriend, and I was so dumb and naive that I actually thought he wanted to be with me every time that he'd break up with her and come to me. But anyway, the point is they actually broke up for a long time, so he ends up asking me out. A really big red flag that I should have paid attention to was that he had me blocked on his social media for a while, and then when he added me on there, he never posted me or anything, but he would post like every single day.
So basically, he kept me a secret, but, I was dumb. Anyways, so we go to a party, and there's this mutual friend.
Louisa is back. It's been over a month, but look at the growth and retention. Keep in mind, she works with cleaning chemicals on a daily. Her nails have come a long way. I did this set a few days ago, and she wanted some red holiday nails for Christmas. And by the way, Merry Christmas to whoever celebrates. We got to talking about her plans for today, and she told me it will probably be her best Christmas since she's moved to the country, and it's because of how happy her kids are going to be this year. Her and her husband have always struggled financially, and she was always scared to disappoint her boys on Christmas because they just couldn't afford whatever the other kids were bragging about at school. She said thanks to her new cleaning business, she was able to afford the toys they wanted and more. Honestly, I feel like every time I see her, I tear up because it's amazing to see her doing so well. These are how the nails came out. She really liked them.
Part 2 of how I found out that my dad was sleeping with my grandma. So continuing on with the story, I walk in on my dad and my grandma butt naked sleeping with each other. And by sleeping, you guys know what I mean. Oh, did I forget to mention that that's also my dad's mom? So I caught my dad sleeping with his mom. Mind you, my grandma's like 55 and my dad is 32. I mean, I guess it's not that big of an age gap. So back to the story, my first reaction was to take out my phone and start filming it. And my dad and grandma did not like that. But I just kept filming. My exact words were, I need receipts. By this time, they're both under the blanket trying to get dressed. Without me seeing their wing-wings and hoo-has and titty-tas. At this moment, I was like, wait, I could be having the dream life right now. I could blackmail these two into anything at this moment. Then I was like, nah, I love my mom a little more than that. So I started thinking for a second about what I wanted to do. Then I book it out the house and send the videos to my mom. They did get a divorce. My dad lives with my grandma, and I do occasionally see him, but I live with my mom.
Girls, tell me about a time where your quick thinking probably saved your life. I'll go first. 2 years ago, I was walking my dog at the park, and a man approached me and asked to take a picture of her. And I said yes, because why not? It's a picture of a dog. So he started taking a picture of my dog, and then I realized that he was like holding up her collar, and then it hit me. My address is on that collar. He's not taking a picture of my dog. He's taking a picture of my address. So I told him that I actually didn't feel comfortable with him having a picture of my dog, and I asked him to delete it. So he deletes it and then like starts walking away really fast. And I was like, excuse me, sir, no, could you also go into your deleted album and delete it from there? And he goes, I don't have a deleted album. And I was like, you have an iPhone. Everybody has a deleted album. Could you please delete the picture? And he was like, sorry, I don't have a deleted album. And like keeps walking away. And keep in mind, this is like 2 PM in a park. Like there's other people around. So now I'm like chasing after him and I'm telling him, sir, I know you have the album. I will show you where the album is. Can you please go onto your phone so that we can delete the picture? Oh, part 2.
Story time. My best friend slept with my boyfriend on my birthday. So a little background information. I was 16 and a sophomore in high school. Well, I had this best friend who we are going to call Sarah. Her and I became super close over the summertime, but she was like on and off best friends with this other girl who we're gonna call Mackenzie. But I had this boyfriend who I was also really on and off with, and Sarah knew about all the problems within our relationship. Well, I guess I underestimated how close Sarah and Mackenzie were, because everything that I told Sarah, she was,
my boyfriend's pee-pee smells bad, he has terrible body odor, am I the asshole for wanting to break up with him? At this point, I couldn't even bring myself to kiss him, let alone hug him or even do anything else to his body. That meant 0 sexy time. So I decided to tell him the truth that I couldn't stand his body odor. I even told him that his pee-pee smelled really, really bad. And that for that reason, I wasn't touching him or even kissing him anymore. Then he told me that I was being an inconsiderate girlfriend because the other girls of the other players on his team didn't care if their boyfriends were stinky. Then this man actually asked me to do the dirty with him. And as soon as we started kissing and trying to go at it, I started gagging at the stink of him. Then he told me that I didn't take his career seriously and he kicked me out of his apartment. Then I actually did feel like I was being the terrible girlfriend. At the same time, how could I be with him when he literally stinks so bad? 2 hours later, he showed up to my apartment, showered, and I couldn't resist myself, and we went at it. 2 days later, he stinks again. He's refusing to take a shower, and I don't know what to do now. 2 nights ago, he wanted to do the dirty, and he started kissing me, but I gagged again. Basically, I had to force myself to do it. He won't stop touching me. What should I do?
Story time about how my sister and I almost got beat up by a 40-year-old man. So there was this one girl who would bully my sister and I on the bus in elementary school. Well, one day we told the principal and the principal called her dad. And she made up this whole story about the only reason why she did it to us was because we were bullying her. So the next day, after we told the principal, her dad was at the bus stop. And he comes up to us, taps us both on the shoulder, and says, if you guys ever bully my daughter again,
I will hold you down while me, her, and her sister beat the shit out of you guys. So we got to the school that day and we called our dad. We told him what happened, but he was kind of questioning it. Until our neighbor actually walked up to our house and knocked on the door and told my dad. And I guess at the bus stop, everybody kind of looked at the guy like, are you fucking crazy? Because my dad at the time was a bodybuilder. And he was like, what the fuck is he gonna do? Like for part 2.
One day, my cousin made a Tinder. And we were having a family barbecue, so he came over. He was like, oh my god, Sam, like this really hot girl just like matched with me. And then he shows me. And then I see the profile and it's literally pictures of Madison beer. But the name on the profile was like Kalani. I was like, bro, I don't know who you think you're fucking texting, but it's not Madison beer. You're texting someone's fucking auntie right now. Whole ass auntie. He's like, guess we're about to find out. I was like, no, what the no? He's like, I just gave her the Addy. She's about to pull up. Like, we're gonna meet. Like, it's all cool, Sam. Like, trust me. Trust me. Trust me, he said. I trusted him. So I see a car pull up, and he's like, oh my god, I think it's her. I was like, oh shit, what if I do meet Madison Beer? The door freaking opens, and this old lady pops up. I look at my cousin, and I'm like, go! Go hug her! Go! You were so excited. It's Kalani. The one and only. Come on.
Am I wrong for refusing to put my fiancé on the house title after he kept handing me empty pens as a prank? I, 34 female, have been with my fiancé, 37 male, for 3 years, getting married before the end of this year and recently moved in the house that I inherited from my mom. The house is in my name and it took a lot of talking and convincing from him to have his name on the title as well. Now, honestly, part of me doesn't think this is a good idea, at least not right now, maybe after marriage. But anyway, I've decided to go ahead and put his name on the title so he could go ahead and start contributing towards the mortgage more and lighten my burden a little bit. We've made appointments, decided on which form of ownership we were basing this on. When it was time for me to sign the deed, my fiancé stopped me and gave me a pen saying this pen was his lucky pen and told me to use it to sign the deed. I took it and tried to sign, but turned out it was empty. He was like, oh, I must have forgotten, while laughing, and then pulled out his other lucky pen. I took it, tried to sign, and that one too was empty. Honestly, seeing how he was laughing, I figured he was messing with me, but he swore he wasn't and pulled out another one of his lucky pens. I tried that one too and it was empty. My fiancé started cackling.
Story time about how I was voted the ugliest girl in high school. Disclaimer, is not my story time, it's me on Instagram. Growing up, I was really awkward. My parents always used to call me the ugly duckling, but my dad told me not to worry, that when I would grow up, I would become beautiful. Honestly, this really stuck to my head, and I am very beautiful now. I used to have braces, acne. My hair has always been curly, but I didn't know how to treat it back then. My mom had really straight hair, so she had no idea how to do my hair either. And this was the toughest thing for me. I would show up to school with knots in my hair because I didn't even know how to brush it. Eventually, my mom did start taking better care of my hair, which really helped. I also didn't know how to dress for my body. I wore big hoodies, big t-shirts, while the other girls in my high school dressed for their body type. I honestly just had no clue. I did get bullied, but mostly by boys. I think the girls probably just felt bad for me, so I never really had problems with other girls. A group of boys would always bother me. One of them even asked me out, pretending that he wanted to go out with me. Of course I said yes because I actually believed him. He asked me to go to the movies, and when I showed up, he wasn't there. I decided to go watch the movie anyway, but the next day in school, I couldn't hear the end of it. To my face, this guy called me stupid.